loud round of applause. Please put your hands together as we welcome Managing Director and RVP Sales, India and SAARC, Zendesk. Put your hands together. I can hear the applause, feel the applause. Mr. KT Prasad, welcome, sir. Thank you so much for being here today. We have him joining us on the virtual screen with us to make sure that the welcome is warm, to set the tone of the day. Please welcome Mr. KT Prasad. Welcome, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Keisha, for amazing, the start of the day. I will remember those three P's for a long period of time. Welcome all the audiences and the participants who are joining live today. Very good morning to you. And I'm here today to talk about a bit of information to give you on CX trends. In the last 3 years that I've been engaged, and out of 5 years that I was with Kamikaze and Customer Fest Show, this is my third year in a row where we bring in customer experience trends to give you those trends, what the customers have been thinking through with our research and study. And I'm going to give you today the 2021 customer experience trends. Without further delay, let me just go straight into some context setting. 2020, we will remember this year for a long period of time, not just in this generation, but also the previous and all other generations to come, probably for a long period of time. Because in 2020, everything has changed. Just think about from the time that all of us in India and across the globe, different times and weeks that we all went into lockdowns, look at businesses, how they've impacted, customers impacted. Most of us all went back to remote working from home. You see some of the travel and transportation industry has seen a huge spike of cancellations and reschedules. It went into a zone that probably would everlasting for us from some of those memories. But if you look at that particular year and see what really that taught us, let me just show you a couple of quick insights. What we felt, your company's success is going to be depend on your customer service. Now, all of us know this. In India, it's even more important, probably in some of the industries, that, how is the service of this product or company that I'm going to engage with before making a purchase? I think it has taken even more bigger primary seat when 2020, all of us got hit with pandemic that we're still dealing with. We're still not out there, but customer success is and customer service is what drives your company growth. That means everything now revolves around how beautifully simple service that you got for your customers. 75% of customers think about your CX when they're making a purchase. I think if you ask this question probably a year ago, I would say maybe a 50% of this number would have been there, which is a priority. Because when pandemic has hit, I think the customer service needs have spiked. Now, remember, all our customers are thinking about your CX before making a purchase. You imagine that great CX that you intend to deliver and customers are expecting. If you happen to not deliver, about 50% of the customers will leave with one bad experience to your competition. Now, in India, it's about 50. But if you look at some of the other countries across the globe, there are countries who probably have customers telling us that about 80% of the times that 80% of the customers with one bad experience, they will leave to competition. That means delivering a great CX is even more important to drive loyalty and to drive further business growth. It's not about acquiring customers is as important or even more important now is in CX. So if you get in a customer, make sure that you drive a great CX, because otherwise you will have a churn risk. Now, I'm going to talk you through some of the top trends of this year in 2021. And we've recently done, this is basically surveyed across the globe, across 175 countries, and with customers of over 90,000 customers have participated and provided these insights. We even spoke to humans and customer experience leaders, business leaders, financial leaders to bring in all that they're seeing from what they're hearing from customers to get you really equipped to some of the strengths. Now, all of these are available in Customer Experience Trend Support 2021. I'm going to give you and leave you a link at the end of my, my conversation today, where you can probably download a very interactive CX Trends report for you to see, make sense of it, and probably start using it in your business. As we go through all the customer experience trends, and some of them you would have seen it, some of them you experienced it, and some of them probably it would be back of the mind. But the number one that I wanted to bring up today, there's a spotlight in CX. Like I was, said in my opening remark, there is a far more importance where CX has been given in India and in our subcontinent countries. Now, look at it. Indian firms are more focused on customer experience than ever. About 90% of businesses say CX is more important than a year ago, right? And that's what really pandemic has really given us. Second, Indian customers, about 56% of them feel the same. It's not about us as a businesses feel that CX is important, but our customers also expect to deliver that great CX. Now, on the bright side, I think Indian consumers and customers are far more forgiving. You remember I talked about how many people would switch with a bad experience, while India, for one good thing, it's at the bottom of the pyramid, which is that 50% of customers would leave with one bad experience. Now look at in some of the other countries, either developed countries like Singapore or Australia, or some of the fast-growing countries like in India with Brazil. About 80% of the customers leave with one bad experience. Maybe we are forgiving, our customers are more forgiving today, but will they be forgiving tomorrow and day after as things keep changing? Because customer experience and those consumer expectations keep changing and keeps evolving over time and again. So it's important to make sure that we pay attention to CX and put that into right spotlight. Number two, as we move in and look at what is the most important thing that would have happened to all of us in 2020, I want you guys to reflect upon this. I think today what we are seeing, moving from business-centric views to customer-centric views, all of us talked about a year ago that, hey, put customer in the center of everything else, and that would give you a lot of good. Now, what we are seeing a second trend today, I think customers want to have a conversation with you. Now, I just want to take a pause and think about, remember in India, more or less, we talk about, hey, let's go meet on a coffee or a tea. And it's very personal conversation that we try to drive. Now, in a virtual world that we all of us live, I'm talking to you in my comfort of home, and I'm sure this entire event is going virtual. Otherwise, we would be sitting in Mumbai and talking to each other in person. Now, what is the equivalent of meeting in person and driving the personal conversation? It is messaging. Now, the rise of messaging is real. Reason, about 93% of Indian customers used at least one support channel which is new to them in 2020. And that's almost like, every other consumer, right? And out of that, 61% of customers have tried messaging as a supported channel to talk to you and me as a businesses for the first time. And that's a huge spike and rise of messaging in India that we have seen. Now, remember, I talked about the personal touch. Then when you meet in person, the equivalent is actually messaging. Because when you talk to you customers on messaging, it is personal, because this is the channel that I talk to my family and friends. So that means it's very personal to me. It drives a very personal conversation. And hence, customers today looking up to you to use messaging as a channel to have that conversation. Now, India leading the global shift, while we are more forgiving with the bad experiences, but we are leading on adopting messaging as a primary channel of communication. Look at the bottom, India, that red corner that you see on the far right, messaging is being adopted. Now, there are a lot of saying about is SMS is going to stay for a long period of time. SMS, I can't drive a conversation. But if you think about WhatsApp, if I said hello to you about a year ago, and probably we've had a great conversation in a last Customer Fest show, and probably we had 2-3 exchanges of messages. And today I come back at the CX event and talk to you. I would have seen my WhatsApp conversation, all those 4 or 5 conversations very clearly persisted, and I can reflect upon the conversation that we had and exchange those thoughts and stuff like that. It is important to embrace these messaging channels as customers are expecting you to do so. Now, very important third trend that I want to bring it to you today, which is emphasis on agility. What this means, what we used to take a longer time of digital transformation and stuff like that, or your agents providing information to customers when they reach out to you, it's far more becoming important. Now, let me give you a couple more insights. We went ahead and asked how many communication channels, whether it's a phone, email, chat, social messaging, that you use and your customers use in a typical day. Now, there are many countries, and what those 3-bar colors, actually, the red is just one channel and the yellow in the center is just 2 channels, and anything more than 3 channels is on the far right that you see, which is slightly marked in orange. Now we will see, India really is at the top. 69% of Indian, agents, our customer support agents, uses 2 or 3 channels, support channels to talk to customers. Now, all of us think that, oh, I've given my customers a telephone, channel to communicate, or an email to communicate, or a message to communicate, which is fantastic. But are you really creating a good comprehensive conversation for agents to make sense of previous conversations? I guess no. Indian agents and support agents have limited access to customer data. Now, this is very worrisome, and that's close to about 50% of support teams do not have access to customer previous interactions. Now, what happens? Imagine you and me as a consumer calling a business that we talk to, or maybe doing a business with them, or a product or service. You call them and they kind of put you on hold and say, hey, can you put you on a hold for a few seconds while I look up information? That means that particular business has not really tied up all these channels of communication and really make sense of why this customer is calling. Now, it's very evident in the customer strength report, about over 50% of those support agents do not have previous interactions. Now, that cannot be driven a great CX for your customers. Now, the fourth one, the future of work is now. And I'm sure all of you would strongly believe that whatever we've learned, and who would have thought that all of us can work from home for a long period of time like this? Maybe 1-2 days previously before pandemic, yes, but something like this, I've not gone to office over a month now, over a year now since the pandemic. And I've never thought as a business leader, as well as employee, that I could work from home for such long period of time. But what this really means, the change in this future of work is going to here to stay. That means as a vaccination drive goes up, and probably more people will be inoculated, and then probably they're safe to go and travel. But most businesses are giving this option to your employees to work from home. That means your agents, some of the customer support agents, will continue to work from home. What it gives you 2 opportunities. One, you could probably engage and hire more support agents across country without having them to sit in one contact center, or maybe at one place to sit and do. They can still do it from comfort of home. But also, you have a lot of other customers who used to walk into your store, or maybe come into your your online or app experience, but they're also coming from their comforts of the home. So it gives you the future of work is here to stay, both from employees and customer point of view. Now, the last trend that I want to talk to you today is we are at a digital tipping point. Now, what this means, if I ask a digital transformation before pandemic, I used to hear units like, digital transformation is to take 6 months or maybe 1 year. Now, guess what? When we hit with COVID, things have accelerated, and some of the businesses and some of the customers who have used Zendesk, I could tell you, they went live in less than 1 day and 1 week. So the units of transformation really shrunk. So what used to take for 6 months to 1 year has shrunk to probably in weeks, if not days. So we are at a digital tipping point. Imagine 80% of digital investments have come in the last 1 year. And if you go back and ask most business leaders and CFOs today and the CEOs, hey, would you invest into digital technology? And this is the budget that probably I would need to get in this technology for serving my customers. What used to be maybe a little more difficult or a bigger conversation as a business case approval, today, everybody went virtual. Everybody went digital. Including a big ticket item like a jewelry stores are going virtual and offering those great products in a virtual experience way and delivering that product. to smallest of smallest retail stores and other businesses. I think digital is going to here to stay. And I think irrespective of industries, all those industries will have digital as a mechanism to reach out to customers. Now, with that, if you want to get a detailed reports of these trends that I talked about, and if you want to get a little more insights beyond the 5 trends, go look up at zendesk.com/CX trends, and you will be able to get a very interactive report for yourself. With that, I want to thank you all for very patient listening. It's been an immense pleasure to open the conversation today and share the CX Trend 2021. And I'm here. If you guys want to have a catch up with me, I'm more than happy to be available and answer any questions on our platform. Thank you. With that, let me hand over back to Kisha.
Thank you so much, sir. I think you've kind of got us rolling, the ball rolling, and we know that this is going to turn out to be one of those days where we're asking the right kind of questions. You've given us 5 points to definitely note down. The mulling and the internal work is going to happen, I think, pretty much towards the end of the day, or maybe towards the end of the entire fest. But we have a small ritual happening, sir, and I hope you remember it from last year. When I say customer, you say fest.
Right.
Because we're at the Customer Fest show, right? So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Bring in your energy, okay, sir?
Yep.
Okay, ready. Customer
Fest.
Customer
Fest.
All right. Well, everybody at home, I hope you're saying that as well. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us, for opening up the day. And, well, we're now ready to move forward. Thank you very much for your presence.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the event and enjoy these conversations.
Thank you, sir.